There was a minister who went to get his teeth pulled. As a result, he would need dentures. The first Sunday after, he preached 10 minutes. The second, he preached 20 minutes. And the third, he preached an hour and a half. Some members of the congregation asked about the different amounts of time. The minister says, the first Sunday, my gums were so sore, I could barely talk. The second Sunday, my dentures were causing the pain. The third Sunday, I grabbed my wife's dentures and I could not stop talking. No offense to the wives. Dear friends, in Jesus Christ, as we get older, we all have to ask ourselves the question, to whom do I give my primary allegiance? In today's gospel, Jesus invites us to give our primary allegiance to God. He calls on us not to do our own will, but to do the will of God. That is why in the prayer he taught us the opening petitions are, Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We are to ask God in prayer that His will would be done in our lives. It is Jesus who reveals God's will for our lives. Not just what Jesus says, but all that He does, His entire life, show us what God's will for our lives. What does God want for our lives? On one occasion, Jesus said, quoting one of the Jewish prophets, "What I want is mercy, not sacrifice." God wants us to live lives that reveal God's loving mercy, just as Jesus' life revealed God's loving mercy to the full. That is why God's will for our lives, this is the way God wants us to take. Yet, we all know we often go our own way. Our own will can take priority over God's will. The story of Adam and Eve in the first reading is the story of us all. In that story, God was very generous with Adam and Eve, placing them in a beautiful garden. They could eat of the fruit of all the trees in the garden except for the one tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Yet, in the story, the serpent tempted them to eat of this very tree, promising them that in doing they would become like God. Wanting to become like God, Adam and Eve ate the fruit of this forbidden tree, and in doing so, they lost God and lost each other. Whenever we try to be on our own good, putting our will above everything else, we lose the true God and we lose ourselves and others. Yet, even though Adam and Eve lost God, hiding themselves from God, God did not lose them. He went looking for them, asking them where are you? Whenever we go on our own way, drifting from God's way, God seeks us out in His merciful love. He sent His Son, Jesus, to seek us out. As Jesus once said of Himself, the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost. We are all prone to losing our way, yet the Lord never loses us. He seeks us out in His love. The risen Lord keeps calling us back into His new family, the family of those who try to live in according with God's will.